Market Cafe on ET Now with me Shreyansi Singh and with me Priyanka Offal. And over the next 1 hour, we'll take you through news and updates from within the country as well as across the globe, tell you which stocks you should keep on your radar and tell you what the brokerages are saying as well. But first things first, Priyanka, let's take a look at Wall Street and snapping that 4-day gaining streak then.
But then let's not forget, Shreyansi, good morning. Let's not forget that early in the trading day, Dow and S&P, they both hit the fresh records and later they could not build on to the gain, and that's what we saw, that both the index slid from the high. But it was not a very big cut coming in. Nasdaq, in fact, closed with the minor gains. It actually flat to positive. S&P and Dow both after hitting the fresh record high again. They snapped their four-day winning sessions, and post that we saw that the S&P lost nearly 0.2% and Dow also fell nearly 0.7%. 9 of the 11 sectors of S&P, they were in fact advancing earlier. Now as we are approaching close to the September close, all three averages are on a track for a positive September. Though there are fear of economy slowing down, but then we've seen record high for not just US markets, for Indian markets, and of course globally also, even good cues coming in from European markets also. But then a couple of stocks which we should look at, there was some downgrade stock and there was a news impacting two of the stocks, especially after a downgrade from Morgan Stanley, General Motor and Ford. They both fell nearly 4%. But then now what is US future indicating is it is inching little higher. Though it should not be called a weak close, but then it paired the initial gains. So, but then let's see how we pan out for the day, rest of the day. But then it looks like record high. The momentum of record high is not just with the Indian market; it's also with the US market. That's what we saw yesterday again.
Alright, so slight pullback coming in there. Let's move on. Let's take a look at oil prices then. And a slump over 2% is something that we're looking at, and worries over supply disruptions in Libya are something that will remain in focus along with demand concerns that continue despite China's latest stimulus. So when you take a look at price movement, then you're looking at Brent downtick of about $1.7 or about 2.2% coming in. $73 per barrel is where Brent was at, and when you take a look at US WTI as well, downtick coming in there as well, 2.6% downtick, and $69 per barrel is where Brent was, where WTI was also at. Now, Libya's faction signed an agreement on the process for appointing central bank governor, an initial step to resolve the dispute over control of the central bank and oil revenue that has also slashed Libya's oil output and exports. So that is something that will remain in focus, and despite of course a slew of monetary support measures announced by China's central bank, analysts are still worried about the fact that more fiscal help might be needed to boost activity in the world's largest crude importer. So that is definitely going to remain in focus. And the intensifying conflict between Iran-backed Hezbollah as well as Israel is also going to be supporting crude prices, and that is something that we saw just sort of capping the losses just a tad bit, but that is largely the kind of handover that we have from the oil markets. Meanwhile, the hurricane threatening the US Gulf Coast is also something that we'll be tracking very closely when it comes to the oil market as well. Lastly, let's take a look at gold then, and gold edged down, some consolidation coming in as investors book profits after it soared to a record high, and as expectations for another big rate cut by the US Federal Reserve also bolstered bullion's bull rally. So that is something that we're keeping a very close eye on, Priyanka.
All right, let's go on. Moving on to crude and gold we've spoken about. Let's talk about the events that had to be tracked. Of course, from domestic markets, the bigger trigger will come from Nifty. It's a monthly expiry on Nifty. What we saw on Bank Nifty yesterday was a pullback in major of the private bank. Let's see how Nifty fares today. From US, we have initial jobless claim coming in today. Plus, there is a second economic indicator which could be key to watch out for, would be Q2 GDP number. And of course, let's not forget, Fed Chair Powell is to speak. So his comments would be very important to understand what is the way ahead. From Eurozone, we have ECB General Council meeting coming in, and ECB President Lagarde is to speak on, address the media on that. Other events, if you talk about general events where PM Modi, he will visit Pune because it's a coal-bound city, and India to have an October to March borrowing plan. There's a key meeting which is coming on, in which the eyes would be with the banks and from the financial space, where the borrowing plan has to be, it will be talked about. That's what the cues.
Absolutely. Let's also take a look at some more news and updates. Then, internet giant Google has filed an antitrust complaint with the European Commission accusing Microsoft of using unfair licensing contracts to stifle competition in the multi-billion-dollar cloud computing industry. Google claims that Microsoft uses unfair licensing terms to lock in clients and exert control over the cloud market. The complaint comes after a slew of cloud companies in July agreed on a settlement with Microsoft, which would see the firm make changes to address competition concerns.
All right, and now moving on, we were talking about two stocks that saw an impact of the downgrade by the Morgan Stanley. Shares of global automakers Ford and General Motors took a hit on the back of that Morgan Stanley downgrade. The firm has downgraded both automakers, citing a challenging market environment which is marked by falling prices and growing competitive threats, particularly from China. High inventory, falling prices, and weakening demand. These are some of the key factors that Morgan Stanley believes could stop the growth prospects for the said companies.
Rather than moving on, Micron was buzzing away in trade. Global chip giant Micron forecast higher than expected revenue for the upcoming quarter. The company now expects first quarter revenues of $8.5 to $8.9 billion versus expectations of $8.3 billion. Management also attributed robust demand for its chips as the reason for the bullish guidance. The stock zoomed 14% on the back of this news as well.
Now, tech giant Meta has unveiled the Quest 3S, their latest virtual reality headset. The product set to come out, company's Reality Labs division. The latest headset offering cheaper, priced at $299 versus its predecessor Quest 3, which was priced at $499. The product poised for sales starting next month.
Rather than moving on, shifting focus to geopolitical tensions worsening in Lebanon, Israeli offensive continues to claim lives with 72 people killed and nearly 400 wounded. In the last 24 hours, Israeli commanders have not prepared their soldiers to prepare for a possible ground invasion against Hezbollah. Meanwhile, France has indicated that efforts will continue over the coming hours to clinch a proposal on a 21-day ceasefire in conflict-ridden Lebanon. United States has been collaborating with other countries to avert the escalation of hostilities in the region.
All right, with this, we stay for a short break here. More to come on the other side of the break. We talk about the Asian markets and the other cues that are important for you to know. Understand how is the trading day going to pan out for.
Welcome back. Thank you so much for staying tuned in. Well, as promised, let's take a look at the Asian markets. Then in Asia Pacific, markets largely rose with markets in the region rebounding just a tad bit. When you look at Nikkei, that is the one that is firmly in the green. Over 2% uptick coming in for Nikkei. Let's also take a quick look at Kospi then. That is also in the green and firmly so, 1.7% uptick coming in for Kospi on your screens. ASX 200 as well. 0.5% uptick, 0.6% uptick coming in for that one as well. Shanghai, though, slight shade of red coming in for that one, downtick of about 0.2%. So that is the kind of move that you're seeing for Shanghai. Hang Seng on the flip side is up about 0.4%, slight uptick coming in there as well. So that largely is the kind of handover that we have this morning. Now, of course, back home we closed around the 26,000 mark. And we did see a good move coming in. We were writing it off as a lackluster session, but we ended around those record highs, and that was the kind of move that we saw coming in for the Nifty as well as the Sensex. And currently what is being penciled in back home, of course, is a subdued start with a positive buy. So let's really see how that pans out for us, Priyanka.
All right. The Hang Seng has been surprising. This is the third straight day when it's rising, and after a long time, especially what we saw happen last month. But then let's take you to all the action that possible you will see on the TM today, the morning show. To get you more on the markets, we have Manish Santalia, who's the Director and Chief Investment Officer from MK at 9:20 to talk about the markets on the way ahead. And then we have impact of how is the US Biosecure Act going to impact Indian pharma companies. We will have Syngene International, Jonathan Hunt, MD and CEO for Syngene, as well as joined by ED and CFO Sibaji Bishwas at 9:30 for you. Gold is inching higher day by day, but what is in store now? We would have Peter McCord, who's the Chief Executive Officer from XM Australia, as well as we have the council person from Genuine Jewelry Export Promotion person, Sabis Achirai, who's the ED for GJPEC. Then at 9:50, power exchange is coupling soon. That's what we saw. The IX has been impacted the most last 2 days. But what is in store? We would have Sabyasachi Majumdar, who's a senior director for Care Ratings. And at 9:50, he's also joined by Rahul Raizada, who's the partner for PwC India Climate and Energy Market Tracks. And then to understand the real estate trends, we would have at 10:20 Manoj Gaur, who's the chairman of CRIDAI National and president of CRIDAI NCR region.
Alright, then lots of interesting conversations lined up for you, and that's a power-packed lineup right there. But
welcome back. You're watching Market Cafe on ET Now. Now on to an ET Now exclusive where we learn from sources that the Dabur promoter family is looking to step out the acquisition race. This is in the Hindustan Coca-Cola Beverages HCCB's stake sale plan. Aishwarya Patil is here with more details on this. Aishwarya.
Well, the Burman family, which is the promoter entity of Dabur Group, has scrapped their plans to acquire stake in HCCB, which is the bottling company of the Coca-Cola company in India. Now, the reason being is said to be differences and they're expecting higher valuations from the entities that will acquire this 40% stake in the company is what we're learning from our sources. Now, the next contender or the next in the race to acquire HCCB's 40% stake is said to be Jubilant Foodworks. Now, HCCB is asked for this 40%.
The deep discounting and unfair pricing strategies that quick commerce companies are using will dilute the brand value of FMCG companies, as the consumers will get used to the discounts, and this will lead to an unfair expectation in the future as well. Moreover, these deep discounting and unfair pricing strategies will also threaten the traditional supply chain that the FMCG companies have built over the years. The letter also urges FMCG companies to closely monitor and evaluate the effects that quick commerce companies are having on their traditional retail network, and they have asked the companies to intervene and regulate these pricing strategies and ensure that quick commerce companies and the traditional retailers are treated fairly. Finally, the letter says that FMCG companies should protect their brands, their network and their ecosystem. Now, FMCG companies have been steadily increasing the share of quick commerce in their total sales. While in FY23, this number stood at 15 to 18%. In FY24, over 30 to 35% of FMCG companies' sales come from quick commerce. Earlier, a letter that was written by the same distribution body had urged the government to look into possible FDI regulations being flouted by quick commerce companies, and that is currently under the government scanner.
Thanks, Anjali, for the latest coming in on that row between distributors and quick commerce players. But moving on then, sources tell ET Now that Tata Salt prices are expected to increase by 2 rupees, which will take the final product price to 30 rupees per kg. What are some of the reasons behind it? Astha Chopra is standing by with what she's picking up from your sources. Astha?
Well, big news coming in from Tata Salt, where Tata Salt has planned to increase its prices from next week. Now, what was the prices? Now the Tata Salt is being sold for 28 rupees per kg, but now it will be increased by rupees 2, and it will be 30 rupees per kg from the next week. Why this step? Because of the supply chain disruption and increased in input costs. These are the factors which has resulted in Tata Salt increased price also. Now, this will implemented nationwide across the country. Tata Salt prices will be increased to 30 rupees per kg. Now, when was the last time this happened? This was happened back in 2022 in August, where the prices were 25 rupees per kg and they were increased to rupees 28 per kg. But now, during the due to factors like increased in supply chain and input costs, these have resulted in a once again increment in the prices of the Tata Salt from rupees 28 per kgs to 30 rupees per kgs.
Thanks for bringing that update, Astha. We'll await more updates on this from you. We've learned from government sources that Union Labour Minister Mansukh Mandavia wrote to Tamil Nadu CM regarding the ongoing Samsung workers' strike at the Tamil Nadu plant. He urged for quick resolution of the strike. My colleague Sami Dikshit is here to give us more details on that. Samir.
As the Samsung's worker protest enters the third week of this month, now attempts are being made not just by Samsung firm but also by the central government. And in the same direction, the Union Labour Minister Mansukh Mandavia has written a letter to Tamil Nadu Chief Minister urging the state government to take some action to resolve the ongoing issue, so as to get the workers back to the manufacturing site. Their grievances get addressed as well. And it is not just the central government intervention, but also the Samsung firm. They have now announced that they are ready to negotiate with the workers directly. Now, the catch point is that they have made an official statement where they have mentioned that they are ready to negotiate, but with the workers directly. This simply means that they are not recognizing any union, which is one of the major demands of the workers, those who are protesting at the Shri Perumbadur manufacturing site. So that statement has been made by Samsung. But in addition to this, Samsung has also said that the average tenure of the workforce which is working in the manufacturing site, it is more than 10 years, which also reflect the kind of satisfaction they have at the working site. Having said, Samsung has said that they are they are ready to have a dialogue or discussion with the workers, those who are protesting, not just on the issue of wages, benefits, but also on the working environment. So Samsung has moved one step ahead. They are trying to get early resolution of the ongoing protest and get the workers back to the manufacturing site. Earlier also, we have seen that Samsung has said that the average salary of a full-time employee is 1.8 times higher than the average salary of a similar employee working in a nearby factory or manufacturing site. So these sort of statements are being made by Samsung, which they are trying to reflect that they are looking to have a dialogue with the workers, but yes, they are not going to recognize any workers union, and they are also looking to address the grievances, whether it be related to wages, the work environment, or similar other issues are there. They're ready to address it.
All right, thanks Samir for that lowdown coming in on that protest. But moving on then, with winter just a month away, Delhi is all set to tackle pollution with this new 21-point winter action plan. Delhi Environment Minister Gopal Rai announced the plan, which includes that the odd-even formula will be used only as an emergency measure. The action plan also promotes work from home during high pollution days. The government will also be having drone monitoring for pollution hotspots. Let's also go across and listen into what Delhi's Environment Minister Gopal Rai then had to say about the plan.
पिछले सालों में 34.6 यानी लगभग 35% प्रदूषण का स्तर कम करने में हमें सफलता मिली है। ये आंकड़ा है। तो ये क्या संकेत देता है कि दिल्ली सरकार के प्रयासों का असर प्रदूषण को कम करने में पूरे साल में दिख रहा है। लेकिन उतना ही ये फैक्ट है कि दिल्ली के अंदर जो प्रदूषण होता है उसमें हम तो सारा काम दिल्ली की बाउंड्री के अंदर करते हैं, लेकिन प्रदूषण तो बाहर से, दिल्ली में जितना प्रदूषण होता है उससे दुगना प्रदूषण बाहर से दिल्ली में आता है। उसके लिए राज्य की सरकारों का सहयोग हमें चाहिए, केंद्र की सरकारों का हमें सहयोग चाहिए, और इसीलिए हमने विंटर एक्शन प्लान में दिल्ली के अंदर अपने स्तर पे क्या क्या हो सकता है उसके लिए हमने 21 सूत्री विंटर एक्शन प्लान बनाया है। लेकिन हमें सभी सरकारों का, जो हमारी पड़ोसी सरकार हैं, भारतीय जनता पार्टी की और केंद्र सरकार का भी हमें सहयोग चाहिए, तब और प्रभावी तरीके से इस प्रदूषण को नियंत्रित किया जा सकता है।
We'll stay for a short break here. More to come on the other side of the break. Don't go anywhere.
Welcome back. Thank you so much for staying tuned in. Well, let's get you some more news and updates then. In Citi and Jefferies both conducted channel checks on financiers. While Citi conducted the check on M&M Financial's branches and dealerships in Maharashtra, Jefferies also visited the branches of Shriram Finance, M&M Finance, Aavas Financiers and Manappuram Finance in Gurugram. Varun is standing by with all of those important details. Varun, tell us a little more about what the channel checks pointed towards.
Both of these brokerage houses, Citi and Jefferies, they have conducted the channel checks on M&M Finance and other NBFCs as well. But let me start with Citi, because they have conducted the channel checks at Mahindra Finance branches and dealerships in Maharashtra, and they have maintained a neutral stance with a price target of 310. Now what they say is in Q1, in PV and CV both, the overall demand was modest and it is expected to see an uptake in the second half of this year. Also, the product profile is more skewed towards personal vehicle segment. In financing space, there is competition, especially from a few of the players, going aggressive on LTVs and also on-road financing. Overall, the lending rates for newly launched vehicles is 8.99% and average lending yield threshold of 12.5% is required. They see improved sourcing quality and collection intensity helping structurally the overall stress pool for M&M Finance. Also, when it comes to Jeffries, they have visited branches of Shriram Finance, M&M Finance, Aavas and Manappuram Finance, and on the branch level, they expect that the demand is overall good and the asset quality is stable. For Shriram Finance, they see better truck operator cash flow and higher used vehicle pricing aiding the overall asset quality. For M&M Finance, the newly launched models from M&M Vertical is helping this company. At Aavas branch, the turnaround time has decreased and also they are now yielding incentives for sales. That is what Aavas is giving. For Manappuram Finance, they say post IFL ban, they are seeing higher footfalls for Manappuram Finance. So it's not only M&M Finance but overall the NBFC space which is doing a bit good and they are expected to do better in the second half.
That's a key conclude that the NBFCs are expected to do better in the second half. Thanks very much, Warren, for that update. Moving on, let's get you some stocks which could be buzzing in the trade today, starting with Hindustan Copper, where the board has recommended the proposal for set as well as deposit of the entire assets of copper ore tailing. Beneficiation plant is located at Malakganj Copper Project. Whereas moving on to IDFC First Bank and IDFC Limited, NCLT has passed final order to sanction composite scheme of amalgamation of both the individual identities. Now, with this, it was proposed that IDFC shareholders will receive 155 shares for every 100 shares they hold in the bank. HUDCO could be in focus today. During the annual meet, the board has approved raising of funds up to maximum of 40,000 crore. This would be through the issue of non-convertible bonds or debentures on private placement basis. Now, Vedanta could also be in focus today. Board meeting is slated on October 8th and this is to consider the fourth interim dividend. Record date would be on 16th of October. Moving on, we'll keep an eye on Infosys also, as Infosys has entered into a strategic agreement with Polestar. And now with this strategic collaboration, they would open up a technology hub in Bangalore to develop in-car infotainment software, which is a cloud-powered digital service also. We should also keep an eye on a possible block today, 5-Star Business Finance, P Investors Sequoia as well as Peak 15 and TPG Asia. They are likely to sell 19.2% stake worth of 4,317 crore.
Alright, so there you have it. So that's the list of stocks that are likely to be in focus on account of news flow. But let's also shift focus and take a look at stocks that are making it to brokerage radar this morning. And Gaurav is standing by with that update. Gaurav?
Well, yes, let's begin our list today with Hero MotoCorp because UBS has given a pessimistic view. They have maintained their sell rating at a target price of 3,350 rupees. What they say is that the wholesale volumes and festive optimism is actually clouding retail underperformance in the company. They also say that the festive strength is not actually aiding the full year growth for the company, and at the same time, we have already seen substantial retail market share which has been lost by Hero MotoCorp in the last few quarters, and that is why this pessimistic note is coming up from UBS. Next, we have is Macquarie on HDFC Bank, where they have maintained their outperform rating with a target price of 1,900 rupees, and they also say that this bank is their top pick when it comes to easing liquidity conditions. What they believe is that the Q2 loan book may dip below 10% on a YOY basis, and there will be pressure on reducing LDR ratio, but at the same time they also expect HDFC Bank to report around 16% CAGR growth over the next 3 years, and that is why this remains as one of the top picks for Macquarie. Lastly, let's also watch out for Trend because Citi has now initiated with buy rating and a target price of 9,250 rupees on this counter. What they say is that this company is actually outpacing its peers. This is driving streets upgrades on Trend. At the same time, they are seeing PAT CAGR of around 56% over the next 3 years in the company, and the reason being that the company is actually leveraging its supply chain as well as some strategy from Westside and Zudio. They are also turning around the brand Star, which is actually helping the company, and at the same time Citi has now also included Trend in Pan Asia high conviction focus list for them. So definitely watching out on all these counters on the back of the brokerage note that we have received today.
Certainly, and a robust target for Trent. Thanks very much, Gaurav, for all those updates on the brokerage notes. But moving on, in fact, stay with us, Gaurav. We have one more news coming in after stellar move, what we saw in Piramal Pharma after the investor presentation. Now, Crompton Consumer and CAMS, they will also be in focus today. They've just done their analyst meet. And what are the targets the companies are setting up for the upcoming years? And what are the key takeaways from these analyst meet?
Crompton Greaves and CAMS, both companies met a bunch of analysts, and let's see what are the takeaways from the management. So first, let's talk about Crompton Greaves. What they're saying is that the growth from non-summer segment is actually steady, and in Q2 FY25 also this is likely to remain steady. But from H2 onwards, we may see some uptick in this growth. They are also confident on improving the Butterfly's performance in FY26. They say that the Crompton's 2.0 strategy is actually faring well, and at the same time, management is also confident on achieving all the targets that they have set in Crompton 2.0. At the same time, management has also said that their stance of keeping lighting products outsourced remain intact. So definitely watching out on Crompton Greaves on the back of the commentary coming up from the management. Next, let's talk about CAMS, because there also we are getting some positive commentary from the management. What they are saying is that they are targeting non-mutual fund business revenue to go around 20% of the revenue by FY27. They say that CAMS Pay and KRA each is poised to hit a run rate of around over 100 crore rupees over the next 3 years. At the same time, they say that they are scaling their EBITDA margins. EBITDA margins can reach around 15% by Q1 FY25 in the non-MF business segment. They also say that the aggregator business is promising, and we may see some growth in FY26 in this segment. And lastly, they are also saying that they are investing and building the MFI RTA platform with the Google Cloud for built-in to build scale and agility. So definitely watching out on both these counters on the back of the positive commentary which have come from the management.
Gaurav, for that update coming in. Moving on, then select counters will be in focus on the back of some stake sale action via block deals and OFS. Let's go across to Sharad, who's standing by with more details. Then Sharad.
There's three important deal flows today. First one being, of course, Five-Star Business Finance, where sources to ET now have stated that there might be a kind of a cleanup trade coming in from the private equity investors such as Sequoia, Peak 15, TBG Asia, and other PE investors. They're likely to sell almost 19.2% stake in the company, which is valued at 4,317 crore rupees. Now, overall, the floor price is at 768 rupees per share, which is a 5% discount. Up next is Ask Auto, where their OFS has opened. It's almost the promoters selling 6.05% stake via OFS, which is worth 514 crore rupees. Interestingly, the floor price that is coming in at almost 7% discount at rupees 433 rupees. But an important caveat that this OFS will open for retail investors tomorrow, which is September 27. And lastly, I'd like to point out KPR Mill. Over years, SBI Mutual Fund acquired 2.85% stake on the Bull Deals, which was reported yesterday, which the value came in at roughly 900 crore rupees. Now, SBI Mutual Fund stake has been hiked to almost 7.7% in the textile company.
So thanks very much for highlighting all these three stocks, Sharad. Thank you for the update. Moving on, now with the rate cycle kicking off, what should investors do? Manish Dangia of Mosaic Asset Management shares what he's bullish on and why he's cautious on equities right now.
I think the bond yields in India will be sharply lower in next 1-2 years, perhaps even lower than what we saw in COVID. Gold could be a small allocation. Again, it likes the fact that real yields in US will come down. So therefore, it's done really well already. So to that extent, you should be cautious there. Equity is a space, where there's a lot of momentum. The margins sort of remains high, both in US and India. But the revenue sort of has started to come off. Even EBITDA and PAT sort of in India, last quarter numbers were not that great. So you ought to be cautious, that remains my view. To ensure that an investor who put in money in 2019, over 10 years gets the same return as he would have earned in any point in time on average in last 30-40 years, because last 5 years returns have been so good and stellar, the next 5 year has to be muted to get to the median. So because you've earned 16-17% in last 5 years, you will have to end up earning 7-8%, right? So that the average is still 11% or 12. But there is a little bit of a euphoria building out there. It's very, very difficult, as you know, to be excited about equity for what the valuations are today. In a sense, for a very long investors, incrementally, if the action is going to be binary, that this or that, then it would still be, overweight that you would think that equity is the right place to go if you have no other decision to make. But if you have a more sophisticated investors and you can do underweight, overweight, then you will begin to now, even at long term level, you will take a call that no, right now let me be underweight equity because valuations are expensive. For short to medium term, which is 1 year, 3 year, I would certainly say overweight bonds or significantly overweight bonds. And 3 to 4 year, 5 year, I would say that credit is a decent strategy which will give you as much risk premium as equity, but without the volatility that equity actually comes embedded with.
All right, then let's get you some more news and updates coming outside the world of stocks, shares, bulls and bonds. And Canadian PM Justin Trudeau has managed to survive the no confidence motion against him after his main political rival failed to garner enough support. With this, Trudeau safeguarded the 9-year rule of his Liberal Party, but he's still not free from a different share of challenges. Moving on, then, Elon Musk's social media platform X will file documents requested by Brazil's Supreme Court and ask by this Monday that service be restored in the country. Access to the platform, formerly known as Twitter, has been blocked in Brazil since the end of August over the accusation of spreading hate messages in Brazil. Moving on, then, PM Modi will be visiting Pune today to inaugurate the underground metro corridor. During the visit, PM Modi will also lay the foundation stone for the extension of the metro corridor from Swargate to Katraj, further boosting the metro network. Additionally, he will also be initiating several other important projects, including the much-anticipated memorial, the historic site where Mahatma Jyotiba Phule and Savitribai Phule established India's first school for girls.
Moving on, the second phase of the 3-part Jammu and Kashmir Assembly election saw a 56% voter turnout across 26 constituencies, covering 6 districts also. More votes were polled in Jammu division compared to Kashmir, and Srinagar, which has 8 seats, logged the lowest turnout at just over 29%. The election will wrap up on October 1st and votes will be counted on October 8th. The Central Drug Standards Control Organization has declared more than 50 drugs, including paracetamol, Pan-D and calcium supplements, as not of standard quality in its recent monthly report, raising safety concerns regarding their usage. Heavy rain battered Mumbai, bringing the maximum city to a halt. Several low-lying areas have been inundated. The lifeline of Mumbai suburban trains have been disrupted due to waterlogging on the tracks, and at least 14 incoming flights have been diverted. Remember, the IMD had issued a red alert for Mumbai and its adjoining districts, which is Thane, Palghar and Raigad, till 8:30 a.m. today. BMC has announced a holiday for all schools and colleges, while the Mumbai police has advised all people in the city and surrounding areas to stay indoor as much as possible.
Alright, then keep an eye on the sky. But with that, we're completely out of time on this edition of Market Cafe on ET Now. From me, Shreyansi Singh, Priyanka Uppal, as well as the entire team that put this show together. Thank you so much for tuning in. You don't go anywhere because the market takes all of the action forward.
If you like this video, then like, share and subscribe to ET Now.